What's up, everybody? Happy Taco Tuesday. What's the team? What y'all got going on? Make sure you let us know if you're in the building, who you are. Hi, Mr. Peterson. We have a great show tonight with a great young lady. um, so yeah, I'm glad that y'all can join us. I think that we have, well, she's ready, but we're gonna hold out on her. So talk to me. What's been going on? How's your week? How's your weekend? Um, what did y'all do? Who did y'all see? Who did y'all not want to see? um, so really quick, of course, you always know my co-host is always late. So I think there are going to be some terminations going on. But other than that, it's Tuesday, typical Tuesday. Great woman tonight. Then we're going to dig a little deeper with her. She's on Our Point of View on Wednesdays, which we haven't seen in forever. So I want to ask her what's going on with that. But other than that, what have y'all all did? I see y'all saying I'm here, so thank you all. Make sure that you are sharing the live so that Dominique's story and her conversation can get out. But really quick, so house announcements. What we got coming up this weekend? Do we have anything? Oh, no. I don't know. I usually be on it. Gainesville Pride. If you're in Gainesville, Florida, go support Natalia, Excel, and Yanni. That's going to be on Sunday. And I think that's really all we have coming up for this week. And if I'm missing anything, please let me know. And you can inbox me and tell me to announce whatever. I don't need your money to announce anything. That's not necessary. But this weekend was, of course, a couple of pageants. So I'll run those off while we wait on Wendell. Congratulations to Natasha and Eric for qualifying for Universe. They are Love State or Love City Universe NBU. So congratulations to them. They were the only contestants that showed up, but they showed up. So congratulations to them. And then over in Atlanta, hot Atlanta, we had Miss Beautiful International honoring Rachel Meredith. Congratulations to my Duval queen, Kamaya. She is on the roll, snatching up those titles, as well as first one up, DeAsia Blush. She's back on the scene. And then, of course, second one up, Saria. And, of course, shouts out to Kids Bazooka, Aja for placing third, and Denasia for placing fourth. I think that's how that went. I'm not really sure of the last two spots, but I hear that it was a great pageant. The girls brought their stuff, and it was just, something that the judges had to endure. When you have a great competition, great lineup, great names like that, it's made the best woman win. And then, of course, I was over in Texas for well, I'll let him talk about that. Let's get him on. Never on time with the bright light in your face. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. I was just doing some announcements, trying to kill time with waiting on you, but I was just telling them that I was in Texas at your pageant, Mr. and Miss In Post Advocacy. You hosted me to judge and to entertain. And so first of all, I never told you this and I didn't post it, but thank you for such a VIP treatment, from the airport to the great boutique hotel, to the food, all of that. A funny story, because great Naisha was with me, so we were in the same hotel, and you told us, I'm gonna be there to pick y'all up at 6. And so I know you. And I know that if you haven't called and you haven't said I'm on the way, this is the ET, I know not to move. I know to be ready at 6, but I know not to move. And so tell me why about 6:15, you had called and said, hey, I'm gonna get y'all an Uber. I can't leave because of whatever. And Granny had texted me. She said, did the time change? Is the pageant still going on? And I was like, I said, yeah. I said, he's getting us an Uber. I'll let you know. So she was like, oh, no one said anything to me. So Al texted me and said, hey, y'all Uber, it'll be there in 4 minutes. So I sent it to her. I screenshot and said, hey, Gran, just come on downstairs. The Uber will be here in 4 minutes. She said, I've been downstairs since 6 o'clock. This is my career, not my hobby. And I wondered, well, was that a slight to me?
She had been down there since 6 o'clock.
She had been downstairs since she was like, I do this for a career. This is not my hobby. Like I said, oh, well, you are correct. This is my hobby. It's not a career for me. However, granted, so when she came, she was like, I didn't know what was going on. I said, you have to understand, Wendell, he's never on time. His time management is horrible. So I knew not to move if he hadn't said, hey, I'll be there at this time. But it was a great contest as far as the venue was very nice. I didn't get to see the entertainment like that, but I'm more than sure that it was entertaining. The judges that you had, they were the ones that I didn't know. I was good meeting them. It was just the boys battle. That was a very, very great competition for the boys. I mean, you got Exotic, you got Tarico, and you got Seymour. They're all great competitors. So
Yeah.
that was definitely something to see. Unfortunately, Giselle was the only girl that showed up. I wish it would have been other girls, but we all know everyone just can't make it. But hopefully next year it will be great numbers because of everything that you all have done and are doing. $11,000 to the winner, and then 1,000 for each prelims, and there are like 10 to 15 prelims. Hey, Terrence, 10 to 15 prelims already set. So I would think, who does that? What other system is doing that? Right? Can we name another system that does it? Maybe Gay America. Maybe
Not at
no.
$1,000 a booking.
Okay, but well, and we'll talk to Dominique about that. But yeah, so I thought that you would think that you would have more girls or whatever, but that's neither here nor there. Who showed up was supposed to show up, and who was crowned or was pinned or whatever was who was supposed to. It was already written in the stars. But you had a situation last night. You had to talk about some things. I know that you wanted to briefly touch on that before we have Dominique on. Um,
Briefly.
briefly, 2 minutes. Clear up anything. I know you said you felt ambushed or what have you. So what do you need to say to clear that up?
Well, I mean, first off, I didn't feel ambushed. I was ambushed
Okay.
because I did not know that I was going on there to sort out anything with a contestant, because there were many contestants that pulled out. So I
Mhm.
had no idea that one in particular would be coming on with her notes, but that's fine. Um, but what I will not allow is someone to give a false narrative. And I want to make sure that people understand that this is why community money and nonprofit money is hard to get for pageants,
Mhm.
because it's unlike regular pageants where y'all can just have all the mess and gossip and rumors to float around. When it's connected to an actual brand, it is important that it is stable. So whereas initially it was open following this pageant, I am considering not having it open and letting the city's chapters pick who they want for their contest. Because what I found with this in the last 24 hours is that it is still bathed in mess. And this community prefers negativity over positivity. Out of the entire hour that I was on last night, no one ever asked about the testing numbers. No one asked about the data. No one asked about 340B, the bill that gives us the right to have discounts on our prescription medication that we were fighting for. No one talked about the community conversation and what was it about and what came out of it. No one wanted to talk about that. No one asked anything about the fact that it was free. The venue was $30,000 and we gave out $30,000, a total of $60,000 that was free, and we still let people come in and for free and drink tickets for free. That wasn't the conversation. So I just want to make sure that we dispel all of the rumors, because I heard these things. First off, there was no criteria that you had to work in advocacy.
Briefly.
Let's start there. That was not a prerequisite. I didn't say it. It wasn't said in anything. And I asked the person that was on there, did she have a packet? Did she read it? She said she did. So she was aware that it was not a prerequisite. The other part is that I know a vast amount of trans women, drag queens, female impersonators, however you want to put it. We couldn't have them all in the pageant. It just is what it is. So there was someone that was going to feel slighted no matter what. And the reality is that's just the way it goes. I can't control that. It was out of my control. It wasn't personal at all. And I felt as though it was being made to be a narrative that it was personal, and it was not. But even more dissettling for me is when I went back and I looked at the messages, she was in fact invited at the top of April with everyone else. She received it. I asked her for an email address. She sent the email address. I sent her a message saying it was sent, and I did not hear from her again until right before May when Daylon hit her up because she had not responded. So I didn't remember all of these details last night, and I was made somehow to be a villain, like I left her out of something when in fact she chose to be left out until she made that decision. But I don't want to keep going on and on with it. It is what it is, but I hope that everyone understands that when you are doing something for community and it's coming from nonprofit money, there are rules and regulations that go there that cannot be tampered with. So mess and shows and all of those things, that hurts us. That hurts our, it stifles the ability to do it because it becomes a liability. And at the point that it becomes a liability, it's easier to walk away. So I just really hope that people understand that it's all good for the shits and giggles until it's not. So it's just that's all I really want to go into with that. I thank all of the contestants. I thank all of the patrons. People talk about how it was only one girl, and that's fine, but it was still packed. I had to get security to go upstairs because people started going in areas that was not even for them because they were about the judges. I want them there. And they knew that it was one girl and three guys. But guess what? You know who showed up? Community. Community showed up. That's why it was positive energy. That's why it was nothing but fun. And they were drinking, but it was still no drama because people came there with one goal in mind, and that was to see community be uplifted. And that's what we did. So I'm grateful to you, Trinity. I'm grateful to Naisha. I'm grateful to all the judges because Tilly Love, we had a very diverse judges panel. Courtney Van Wells, everyone. So I'm just very grateful, and I'm looking forward to next year. We did settle on dates today for Atlanta and Dallas and DC. I think is about to set their date. So the dates will be rolling out, and these are
Okay.
15 prelims with $1,000, and come out and get it.
Okay. Well, glad that you were able to get that in without feeling ambushed or what have you. But we
Yeah, you
have
sure
to
you ain't
just.
bringing nobody in right now?
Oh, I don't play those games.
Oh,
I'll let
okay.
you. I don't have to bring it.
Oh,
Well,
but
we're gonna bring
wait.
somebody in. But we're gonna bring somebody in with
But, but,
substance and stuff.
but wait,
But
one other thing though. I did find out after I got off the call that although the person said that they were not able to do the pageant because they were having issues getting the sponsorship and they could not figure out a way to get all three of the colors, pink, yellow, and baby blue. They were having a hard time finding those colors. But someone sent me a clip of the pageant and her Q&A. She said that she was supposed to have been at the Pulse pageant. If you work in community, you know it's very important to get the name of the organization correct. It's Impulse. But she was at the Pulse pageant, supposed to do the Pulse pageant in Houston, Texas, but she chose, keyword chose, to go where she was celebrated and not tolerated. But on the show last night, while she was in her victim mode, she said that she could not get the sponsorship and she couldn't find pink, yellow, and baby blue. But I later found out that she said she went to where she was celebrated and not tolerated. But second run up is the toleration. I'm ready.
second run up is an achievement.
It is an achievement. She could have
When
got
you
first
have
run
a when
up.
you have a select of beautiful girls
And they were
that are
absolutely
competitive.
beautiful and amazingly talented. Amazingly talented. I love
Hi,
all
Miss
of them.
Duval. So yeah, we'll just. It's
But she
nothing
could have
else to
gotten
be.
first runner up and got $1,000 and still had a footprint to have an international scale of platform, which she says is what she wants.
Okay. All right. So we're going to leave that there because we don't want this. I don't want it to continue. I don't want to be pulled into the middle of
Let's
it.
get to the
And
guest.
yeah. So, but anyway, do you have any other announcements that's coming up?
Oh, we are Impulse is hosting a ball October the 10th here in Houston, Texas. It's going to be hosted by Twiggy. I forgot his ballroom name. Twiggy Ballroom and Giselle Barber Royale teaching.
That's
It's
not his
going to be
name.
with Twiggy. I don't know. But that's October the 10th. And then our pool party, our annual pool party is Saturday, October the 11th here in Houston, Texas. And it's going to be a blast. Queen will be here. Also, I'm one of the owners of Mr. and Miss Texas and Mr. and Miss Gay Texas Jewel Survey at Large. We are getting ready for Miss Gay Texas Jewel Survey at Large, August 20th through the 22nd here in Houston, Texas. So we just have a lot going on. So just be on the lookout. Nothing stops. We just keep going.
I don't know who's attacking anyone, but I don't even know what that comment is about. We have to stop using those words
Who
attacking
said something about attacking?
somebody named Manuel. But So we are so happy to have our next guest here. I'm intrigued by this individual. We watch her every Wednesday on. Well, they ain't been around forever. So Trent, you in the what's going on? Have y'all been canceled? No, just playing. But I definitely want to.
I think they did their season finale already. Like they're
Oh, they did. Okay, well, okay.
yeah.
They'll probably be on when Chevelle is on her downtown. They'll probably do more. But if you know Dominique, you know that she is extremely, I'm enamored with a intelligent woman that can speak, and she's into politics, and we'll get into all of that. And Trent said the network dropped them. Y'all must have been on NBC.
They must be surfing new networks. They're trying to find a new
They're
network.
trying to find a new network. Well, okay. Well, we definitely miss y'all, Trent, and we'll talk to her. But I want to bring her on. We typically say an hour and a half. We know that she is a parent, so I think is school out. School.
I think. Well, I don't know if he's in. He may be in like summer school or something. I don't know.
Okay, yeah. But yeah, so or whatever, or camp or what have you. So we want to bring on our guest. Y'all clap it up for the lovely Dominique Sanchez.
Hey y'all, how y'all doing? Oh
We
my
good. How are
goodness.
you?
I'm good. It's such a pleasure to be here. It really
Thank you
is. I,
for
I have been thinking about this for the past week. And then I lay in bed because I have insomnia. So then when I wake up in the middle of the night, I'm thinking, okay, what might they ask me? And so I'm thinking of stuff in my head.
we're not gonna do that to you, Dominique. We just want to know who you are, your story. We might have some little stuff we want to ask you here and there. You're able to answer if you want to. If not, we understand. But we do want to say thank you for giving us this hour of your time. You were on it when we asked you, like yes, you didn't hesitate, so we appreciate that. I think that you are the last of our point of no, we haven't done Neil yet, so
Okay.
we'll get to him. But again, thank you for accepting our invitation to talk to us. And Ken, you got anything before we start?
No, I'm excited to talk to Dominique. Always excited to have a conversation with wifey.
So let me start there, Dominique. Where did
Yes.
this wifey thing come from? Because I thought
See, you starting off with mess. So years ago, years and years and years ago, I became good friends with a entertainer from Dallas. Her name was Claudia Foster. And she and Wendell were really good friends. And I think Wendell danced with her also.
Mhm.
And so I was in Houston, I think, for a pageant, and I was there with Claudia. And so I saw Wendell. And he was thick Wendell then. And he had his hazel contacts on and all that
oh,
stuff. I said, I said to Claudia, I said, who is that thick man right there? She said, oh child, she said, that's Miss Wendell. And so she introduced us, and we stayed pretty much in contact quite a bit over the years. Every time we saw each other, it was just like catching up, from with old times. And so then all of this political stuff started happening, and I just wasn't very knowledgeable about it, but I knew that he was. So then we started this whole inbox relationship to where I was talking to him about all the different things that were going on in the world. And so yeah, and then I will admit I was in love with him. Oh, I tried to get Wendell to date me so hard, girl, but he wasn't hearing it. But so that's where the whole thing came
oh,
from.
gotcha. I needed We all wanted clarification because Trent said he the baby daddy. He needs to know what's going
He
on.
Trent is the baby daddy.
So we always start off with back history. Before you became this entity of Dominique Sanchez, tell
Mhm.
us about your life growing up, who you were, who you are, what did you do as far as like high school, college, and all of that. Take us through that journey real quick.
Absolutely. So I was born in Little Rock, Arkansas, of course. Um, Six brothers and sisters,
Oh,
being raised by our mother. I was the middle child, and I was always different. Even then, I always knew I was different. I remember being 3, 4 years old, and I thought I was a girl then. And so, so I would always get in trouble, by my mom for, for saying such things, asking for dolls and all of that kind of stuff. But, so I just kind of learned how to cope.
Mm.
Um, and just kind of learned how to just become invisible, if you would. So I
Mhm.
became very isolated, and I learned how to just survive in my own world. So,
Mm.
went on to high school, got involved in cheerleading, musical theater, got involved in dance, got involved in tennis. And so, so those were my outlets. Those were my, when you feel like you've been traumatized in life, you find those escapes.
Yeah.
And so dance and cheerleading, all that stuff, those were my escapes because they made me happy. And
Mhm.
those were the places that really brought me joy when I just really didn't feel like I had much of it. And my mom, unfortunately, I love her to death. God rest her soul. She went to prison at the end of my 6th grade year, and we were left with my grandmother, and she didn't want us. And
Mm.
she told us all the time she did not want us there. So my junior year, I went to go spend the summer with my aunt, and I decided I wasn't going back.
Okay.
I said, I'm just done. And, I felt really guilty because I left my other brothers and sisters there. But, I was just, even at that age, I was in a very depressive state of mind. And I just couldn't, but my aunt, who knew who I was, she loved me and she embraced me. She never made me feel any different about who I was. And that's the environment that I wanted to be in.
Mhm.
And so by living with her, she got me involved in church. I was the youth department president, and that's when I learned how to talk.
Mm.
Because of becoming the department president, I was, I had to go, speak in front of the church. We would go to other churches. I had to go speak there, and so that's when I learned I had the gift of the gab, and I knew that I knew how to communicate. Fast forwarding past then, went to college, cheered in college, was still in musical theater. I was working at Pizza Hut one day, and this gay man walked into the Pizza Hut carryout, and he said, "You a pretty little boy. Have you ever thought about doing drag?" I didn't know what he was talking about. I had seen it on, seen stuff on TV, but I
Right.
didn't never really realize that it was a thing. And so he said, yeah, he says, I do a little open stage thing on Thursday nights, and it was called Black Night, because that's when all the black crowd came out. And so I did my first little gig on that Black Night, and I fell in love with it from
Oh my.
there.
So let me
So it
back up. Let me back
yes.
up real quick. When you said you were at the end of your 6th grade year, you went to live with your aunt. Now, were you the only one of your siblings that went with your aunt, or did any of them come with you?
Well, actually, it was the end of my
Yeah.
sophomore year.
Sophomore year, okay.
Yeah, I went up there I was only supposed to be there for the summer. No, my younger brother went, came
Mhm.
with me. My other sibling stayed there. But my aunt she didn't play games, and
Mhm.
she was very strict. And
Mhm.
and that was in the height of all of like the gang stuff and all that stuff. So she was just a little bit too restrictive for him.
Okay.
So he didn't end up staying, but I ended up staying.
Did the relationships with you and your siblings change because of the distance?
No, no, it did not. I became really, really close to my younger sister, my baby sister, who I'm probably the most closest to even to this day, because even when I wasn't aware of who I was, she loved me in spite of.
Mhm.
She never made me feel any different.
Mhm.
And when I began my transition, I was staying with her because I was in an abusive relationship living in Dallas, Texas. I moved back home to Arkansas, and I lived with my sister for a while. And so, when I started taking the hormones and all that stuff, things started developing. But I would always wear these, even in the summertime, I was wearing these big, huge, bulky clothes,
Mhm.
because she had two daughters. She had two young
Mhm.
daughters, and one day she came to me, and this is when I really knew I loved her. She said, "What you doing walking around in 90-degree weather with them hot ass clothes on?" That's what she was saying. And I told her, I said, "I'm trying to be respectful, to your children. They may not understand what's going on." She told me, she said, "Take them fucking clothes off." She said, "My kids already know what's going on." She said, "Don't
See,
hide yourself from your family."
Oh
And
wow.
yeah,
I think a lot of times we don't realize that kids know, kids understand
mhm,
conversations that we feel like they wouldn't understand. When you think back on our ages, when we were kids, we understood a lot of things that adults may have thought we didn't understand. So
right.
yeah. Let's talk about the trauma. Did you deal with trauma, or have you faced the trauma when your mom told you we didn't want you?
No, no, not my
No,
mama,
your
grandma.
grandmother. I'm sorry,
Your
your
My, my,
grandma.
grandmother. Oh, your
yeah,
grandmother. No, your grandmother. I'm sorry.
it took a long time, but remember, I had found my escapes.
Okay. Okay.
So I learned how to operate and cope within my trauma. And
Mm.
then
Mm,
my whole life became a world of make believe, because I
Mm.
was pretending to the world that everything was okay and
Mhm.
everything was great. I never told them anything that was happening, at home. So as far as they knew, I had a great life, but I didn't, because when you're living in a black household, what happens at the house, it stays at the house, and you don't let the world know what that those things are. And so I just learned how to mask my hurt. I learned how to mask my pain, but at the same time not realizing the internal damage I was doing to myself,
yeah.
hiding that, what I'm saying, suppressing that, because it just continued to build, and it continued to build. And those things began to manifest themselves as I became an adult, in ways that became detrimental to me, because that's how I, would pick the wrong relationships. I would, subconsciously pick people that would treat me bad not realizing that was my normal.
Right.
And if I wasn't feeling that way, that wasn't normal to me, because
Wow.
in my mind, I felt that that's what I deserve. That was what my life was supposed to be about. People talking down to me, people mistreating me. I thought that that's what it was supposed to be, because the people that were supposed to be loving me, that's how they treated me. So I thought that every other form of love, even if it was a romantic relationship, I felt that that's how they were supposed to treat me too.
Did you and your grandmother's relationship? How did that go when you left?
Oh, she was furious.
Okay.
Oh, she was, and I'm not dogging my family. I'm just want to be very truthful and
No.
honest. When I say I wanted to come on for people to reintroduce myself to people, I'm gonna have to be truthful in
Mm-hmm.
reintroducing myself to. I don't want to hide anything,
Mm-hmm.
and part of telling my truth is also a part of my healing process.
Yeah.
The more I tell the truth about me, the more I heal more,
Right.
so it's very therapeutic to be able to even tell these things, because before I never could tell those things. But no, yeah, she was upset. She was angry that I left. And we never had the opportunity to repair the relationship, because by the time I started going back around my family, she had already passed. So we never had
Oh.
the opportunity to talk about anything that had happened.
Do you have any type of regret with about that? Passing before an amends, or passing before you could actually have a conversation with her about maybe how she hurt you or anything?
Oh, I not at least not in this moment. No,
Okay. Okay.
I don't feel the regret, but I learned how to forgive the way that I was done, in
Mm.
spite of, through the power of therapy. I learned how to forgive that. And then, my therapist, she did something with me where all the people that had hurt me that were no longer around, she made me write letters to all of these people, right? And then she said, I want you to put all those letters in a box. I want you to go out in the yard, dig a hole, speak your piece, put the box in the hole, cover the hole, and let it all go. And so in those moments, that's what I did. And so in those moments, I felt free, and I felt that, even in the spiritual realm, it was communicated to her how I felt. And so yeah, so I learned how to move on from there.
Awesome. So I heard you say cheerleading. So we have three former cheerleaders, collegiate and high school in here. So were you UCA or NCA?
NCA.
Perfect. we were
Definitely,
we were
definitely NCA.
I was NCA all during high school, and I came off the cheer in college, and they put us in UCA. What in the world? I was devastated with that, but yeah,
Different world, totally different world.
totally. And that
Yeah.
was it was disgusting. But yes, NCA is the way to go. Ken, you have anything real quick?
I do. I'm curious about going back to sixth grade when your
Hmm.
mother left. So, and I'm happy to know that you're so invested into therapy. So I'm sure you've already done this, but my question is, have you completely healed from the sixth grade? The departure of your mother, because it seems like that probably was this maybe the start of the dependency issue. Because when you talked about Dallas and the traumatizing relationship you had there, the violent relationship you had there, we know that when you get in these rotations, you might say,
Yeah.
it keeps going because we try and heal where we are today, and we forget to heal what started it. So, do you think you've settled that?
Yes, because I actually established a relationship with my mother. Because
Good.
she wasn't there forever. When she was finally out, she moved to a city that was like probably like 45 minutes away. So, I was able to have a relationship with her, and so yeah, so most definitely. But when we really started to get close, my mother and I, it's so ironic how things work. I was Miss America at the time, and I had went away for a preliminary, and one of my siblings called and said, "Mama's in the hospital." So I came home, and I think she was alive maybe 2 weeks after she was diagnosed from pancreatic cancer. And so I was just really grateful that I had the opportunity for us to, to have some really tough conversations about me, about my upbringing, and because because what I did not realize, because like sometimes you hold people accountable for your pain and stuff, not realizing they have their own,
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
and they're doing things the only way that they know how. And so
Mhm.
I had asked her one time, I asked her, I said, why did you used to punish me when I would tell you about who I was? And she said, because you would lie to me. She said, I would ask you if that's who you were, and you would tell me no, because I was afraid to say that to my mama. Come
Yeah,
on now.
yeah.
And she said it wasn't because of who you were. She says it's because you didn't want to tell me the truth. And
Wow.
Jesus.
so yeah, so in those latter moments, we really did become close. I talked to her about my my thoughts to transition, and she said she was waiting on it. She was just waiting for me to tell her those things. And I think the healing part for me with my mom was, we were all at the hospital. We had been there all day long. We had been there all, and if so, everybody left except for me, my stepfather, and my mom's sister. And so they said, we're going to go out and smoke for a while. We'll be back. And my mother had been unresponsive because they had put her on morphine to make her comfortable because they told her there was nothing that they could do. And so they put on the morphine to make her comfortable. So she was unresponsive. So I'm sitting there doing a pageant report for Miss America because I had just left a preliminary. And so she woke up. And so she looked up. I looked at her. She looked at me. She took a deep breath. She laid her head back on the pillow. And so I thought, oh, things were going to be fine. And so my aunt comes back in the room. I said, Mama woke up. Everything's going to be okay. And my aunt was like, no. She was like, baby, I think she's gone. And so for me, the therapeutic piece of it was that, you know, my mom was the first person that saw me when I came into the world. And I was the only person in the room when she went out of the world. And I just felt that that was a very special moment that nobody can ever take away from me.
Oh, wow. And this was why you were, so your mother passed while you were Miss Gay America.
Wow, I was Miss Gay
I never
America.
knew that.
Oh
Yeah.
wow. Gotcha. So you meet a guy that tells you about a talent night or a night.
Yes.
Take us through that journey of how Dominique Sanchez came about.
Of course, I didn't know anything about what I was doing. I just knew that I wanted to do it. So who helps me get ready for the show? The real girls that worked at the Pizza Hut with me.
Oh,
Listen, I had longer hair then. Honey, I went to the beauty shop. I got my hair done. I had a feathered fan, had my little stack, went and bought me some. I was looking very Oaktown 357
oh,
I had the little spandex shorts on, had my little
oh my
sports
God.
bra. Honey, I thought I was the end. I thought I was the it because I choreographed my routine to Straight Up by Paula Abdul. I said, baby, I'm finna give y'all some video
Right.
performance up here. And not realizing that that really wasn't what they were looking for, but they still appreciated the talent that I brought to the stage. And, and so some
Right.
people that were there, they said, wow, you really have some talent. We would really love to help you, you
Okay.
know, along with doing that. And they were like, so are you gonna stick? Because at first I was just Dominique. That's all. I was just Dominique. Because when this started, the Magnificent Seven had just won the team gold for gymnastics, and Dominique Dawes was my favorite gymnast.
Right.
And so she was the only Black girl on the team. So I said, I'm gonna be Dominique. So that's what I did. And so then I met this entertainer from Memphis. Her name was Portia Sanchez. And she was like, yeah, I really think you've got some potential. And so that's where the Sanchez came from.
Wow. Okay. Dominique Sanchez. And you didn't know what you had really entered into.
I had not a clue, and when I tell you, I had a lot to learn because then I started seeing everyone around me with all of this elaborate makeup, and them having all of the wigs and all of the costumes and stuff, and I was just like, oh, this is not just like doing a play. This is actually a big, almost like a theater production type of situation. So yeah, I had a lot to learn, but but fortunately, Discovery, which was a bar that Norman Jones owned, Norma, aka Norma Christie, and so there were so many entertainers there that that poured into me, that they kind of helped carry me along.
Yeah, I was going to ask you to name some of those entertainers that were around when you first started that you may looked
Yeah.
up to or you may have helped you.
Well, most of them, of course, were from Arkansas. Kelly Cruz, Brandy Lane, Candace Carrington, and they were a part of the premier showcast. There were several showcasts at the bar, but they were the ones that really invested in me. The My community didn't really care for me because they said I acted too white for them. And so they kind of pushed me to the side, and
Mhm.
so those girls took me on.
Okay, I gotcha. So, how long did it take you from that point to finally say, "Oh, I got this. Oh, I know what to do now."
Trinity, if you really want to know the truth, I didn't really learn that until after I had won my first national title.
Mm,
Because for me, it was just supposed to be something I was doing for fun, not something that I was really wanting to do seriously. So,
right.
so as far as I was concerned, I was just playing and I was just having a good time. And
Mm,
so then, when I started doing pageantry, and only because all of the other people were doing it,
mhm,
and so I started learning little by little and little by little. But keep in mind, I won Miss America like 6 years after starting to do drag,
mhm.
and so I was still in a learning phase.
Gotcha.
So I was raining and learning all at the same time and picking up tidbits here and tidbits there. But
Mm,
I had, Katia, who was very instrumental in my growth as a national title holder, and Charity Case, who really invested in me in learning what this was really about on that level.
mm,
So I started to start to learn the way with from them.
right.
Look,
Uh,
I have a question about that.
mhm,
Trinity, you met Katia. Katia
uh-huh.
judged with you. Um, so I have a question about that though. So now we have a lot of newcomer pageants, right?
Hmm.
But you just said that you were pretty much you won Miss Gay America 6 years in. Was that your
Hmm.
first time competing for Miss Gay America?
No, I won on my third try.
So that means when you first started, you were only 3 years in.
Yeah.
So do you think that newcomer pageants may stifle some of the growth because you had a lot of prelims back then? Y'all had a lot of prelims.
Yeah. Well, it depends on if the system. For me though, I learned by watching.
Hmm.
I learned by the experience of something. And so it really worked for me, and obviously it worked for a lot of people because a lot of the newcomer systems were not around. Um, but I guess it depends for me on is it just the pageant, or are you prepping people to go to the next level?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good way of looking at it because Jade, our Miss Texas and now Miss Gay US of A, she's only 23 years old. So, she jumped in she just wanted to be Miss Texas and then got the beat to want to be Miss Gay USA. And she did all of this before 24 years old, you know?
And it can happen if you have the drive and the determination to want to do something. It doesn't matter how many years you've been in it. You can get it
Hmm.
if it's within you, and you want it, and then you want it enough, and you have people that's around you that's
Hmm.
fostering that growth, or helping feed your dream to get what it is that you want to get.
Mhm.
Important.
When earlier you said this, and then you made post when you were sharing your flyer about wanting to reintroduce yourself. Tell us
Mhm.
what that is. What does that mean to you, and what do you mean by that?
I think that people, for as it relates to me, I think a lot of people didn't never really know me. They just went by what other people told them about me. And one of those things was, which a lot of people are still learning. The whole thing was that I didn't like my own people. I thought I was better than my own people. I was whitewashed, and that's the farthest from the truth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I want people to just know that, you know, as I go through this journey that we call life, and this journey that, with drag, I'm a lover of people. I'm a lover of all people. I don't have a set group that I know that I'm black. That's not what I'm meaning, but I belong to everybody. I want to be a part of everybody because there's something to be learned from every life experience or every person that you meet. And I don't ever want to limit myself to say I only identify here. Hey, I'm a person of the world.
You're every woman.
You better believe it.
Okay, gotcha. Well, we thank you for allowing us to reintroduce you. Let's get to know you a little bit personally. Do you
Sure.
cook? If you do, your favorite meal to cook?
I do. Well, I'm a Southern girl, and I do love to cook. And I have to say that my favorite meal to cook is oxtails with gravy, candied yams, macaroni and cheese, fried cabbage, cornbread, and then I either I've got to do a peach cobbler or I've got to do a sweet potato pie.
This is all
So
one
you, so
meal.
you
That
grew
that
up
that
on
that that,
having
that
to have a
that's
dessert.
that's one meal,
One
baby.
meal.
Baby, listen. Look. So I would cook at home, and Norman would call me and he'll say, Queen, did you cook anything at that house? And I would go take him plates down to the club.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
yeah, I love to cook because in my cooking, I'm thinking and I'm
For yourself.
planning, and it's a very therapeutic thing for
Mhm.
me. Absolutely.
And if y'all are wondering who she's talking, when she say Norman, she's talking about Norma Christie, the founder or owner, well, former owner, but founder of Gay America.
Yes.
So, what is your favorite color and why?
My favorite color is red.
Mhm,
First, because that was the because my junior high school colors were red and white, but I think that it says it's about. I think I like red because that is kind of descriptive of my personality.
mhm,
I can be a pretty. I'm calm a lot, but I have a very fiery personality, and I'm very tick tick boom. I'm very I'm very engaged. I'm loud. People
Wow.
I've been described by some people as being ghetto, but whatever you call it, I think that that's what draws people to
mhm.
me, that energy.
Right. What are three things that you love about yourself and you would not change?
Three things that my heart,
Mhm,
my ability to love people. I love my ability to communicate.
mhm,
I think my communication skills have really helped me get through life, so I would not change that. And I love that I'm a giver,
mhm.
and not only of material things, but I'm a giver of myself.
Mm.
You
I
know,
don't. Go ahead.
go ahead. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Because I mean, because people poured into me, I like to pour into other people.
Yes.
Mhm,
Sometimes, and sometimes that's just conversation. I never realized until I was a national title holder how sometimes people just want somebody to listen, and
mhm.
they just want to be heard. You never know what
Heard.
anybody's going through until you just sit there and allow them to just share and tell their story.
Mhm.
Do you just real quick before we'll get back to the personal questions, but do you
Mhm.
think your ability to know how to communicate effectively using the words you use, how you speak eloquently and you enunciate, do you think that has anything to do with why people may have feel like you're whitewashed and you're on that side?
I think it had a lot to do with it.
Mhm,
But my aunt spoke this way,
mhm,
and then all of her brothers and sisters were educators, so they insisted that I learn how to communicate this way.
gotcha.
Because they told me, they said, if you're, especially when I got involved in the church, they said, if you're going to be in front of people and you're going to represent this family, you're going to do it right, and you're not going to embarrass us.
Mhm,
And so but I think it had a lot to do with just the things that I liked, because the school that I went to, it was predominantly white students. So when I first started coming around, I was a lover of Madonna and Bon Jovi and Pat Benatar and Taylor. Those That was my favorite music. And I think
okay.
that they took that and they used that to define me, and it was farthest from the truth.
Okay. Celebrity crush, living or dead?
Celebrity crush, living or dead. Oh Lord, this is, I don't know his name. I can't think of his name, but I think he is absolutely beautiful. The guy that starred in Get Out.
The one that was stirring?
No, the guy that that got taken to the house.
The star of it, right?
Yeah, he
But
was the one
I
that was
can't.
stirring. That he was stirring the tea.
Yeah,
The-
him.
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
his name.
I don't know
I
his name
cannot
either. If
think of
y'all
his
know
name,
his name in the comments, let us know, please. I don't know
but
his
I
name
know when I
either.
see him, honey, I get real excited because
Really? So is that your
I think
type?
he is. I Ooh, listen, let me tell you something,
She said, "I get real excited."
baby. Let me tell you something. I love a black ass man.
Mm, okay.
Oh my God. There is something about dark chocolate skin that really sends me.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Um, if you could pick a celebrity to be best friends with, who would it be?
Living or dead.
Living or dead? Yes. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm gonna have to say Maya Angelou,
Mm.
because she's someone else that came from a very traumatic past, and she learned how to persevere in spite of, and became just a magnificent woman.
Yeah.
Because I think because of the trauma that
Mhm.
she went through, it helped shape who she was in life. Yeah.
Yeah. She
And I
was
would just
also a
like to,
trained dancer.
right. And I would just love to just sit and just talk and just have conversation.
Yeah.
I love intelligent people, and I love people
So
who have
the
thought.
comments are saying Daniel Kalua. So that's
Beautiful,
your crush, whatever his name
beautiful,
is.
beautiful.
We just gonna call him
I
the
just
beautiful
call
man from God.
I just call him Get Out Man.
Right. Um, which decade would you like to revisit and live in if you could, and why that particular decade?
I'm going to say the 60s,
Mhm.
because I think that that was an era when we were really the most proud to be who we were. And we really came together and were unified for a common cause to make something happen for the greater good of our race. And even as dangerous as it was, they were very unbothered. They were very brave and courageous, and they did what needed to be done. And so I would have loved to have been a part of that, and I would have just learned to have been around those people who led those movements, and who did these major things that we get to enjoy the benefits of today. And yeah, I want to know I want to learn the people who deposited into the
Mhm.
bank of the Black experience. And because now, through a lot that I've learned through Wendell, I'm learning how to be more of a depositor and not just somebody that withdraws from the deposits that they made. I want to start making my own deposits.
Hmm. So would you have been a Martin or a Malcolm?
Oh, I think I would have been a Malcolm, because because
Absolutely.
because I can be kumbaya, but if you push me and you take me there, oh my God, once that Leo decides to jump and start attacking, it can be something else. But it takes a lot to pull that out of me. But oh my God, once it comes out, it's hard to contain it.
Gotcha.
Very Malcolm.
Go ahead, Malcolm. You said you like chocolate. Do you have a favorite candy bar?
Yes, I love almonds. I mean, I love Hershey's with almonds, the Hershey bar with almonds.
Okay, gotcha. What's your favorite season?
Spring. because it even though it's not the same as it used to be, but it's still warm enough, but then it's still pleasant, still real beautiful outside. And yeah.
Aside from your birthday, your favorite holiday to celebrate?
Christmas.
Okay.
I love Christmas, all the pomp and circumstance.
If you could choose a holiday to get rid of, which one would it be?
That I can do without.
Yes.
Oh, I'm about to say, well, it's not. Well, yeah, I guess it's still considered a holiday. I think I could go ahead and pass on Halloween.
Oh,
That's
okay.
that's not really my thing. I'm not really it because I scare easily too, and so and then and then growing up with some people that were very religious,
Mhm.
I learned a lot. I mean, they always spoke about releasing spirits into the world, and so all of that celebration of all of
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I, I
You,
can
you,
I can I can do
Oh,
without
pagan holiday.
it.
she
I
said
can
I could do without Halloween. Y'all don't have to come
You can
scare
do
me.
without the pagan holiday.
I thought she was gonna say 4th of July. I thought she was gonna say, okay, well that's fine too. A lot of people don't know this, or they may. You're a parent.
I am.
You have a son. Talk to us about that, the joys of that, how your life changed when your son was born.
It changed me. When we go back to healing, because he came during a time in my life that I was going through the therapy, and I had developed a lot of habits of being very wasteful with money, being a procrastinator, and things like that. And so, and when you have a child, and you're going to do it the right way, you learn how it's not about you anymore. It's about what you do for the child, and the thing, and the groundwork that you lay for their future. And I took that role very seriously, and I wanted to be for him what I wish someone had been for me.
Mm,
So all of the things that I did at that moment, I was doing it to make sure that his life was going to be much better than mine. And so I tried to be a very selfless parent. And there'll be times when I would go without because I wanted him to have, because I just sent him to private school. He was taking tennis lessons. He was doing cheerleading. He was doing the little league stuff. I wanted to expose him to as much as I possibly could, so that he would know, especially in the South, he would know that the world was limitless, and that he wasn't restricted to anything. And so, but also what I learned what unconditional love was, because I wasn't sure what what it looked like and what it felt like until I started receiving it from him. Even in the moments when I would have to spank him or punish him, but yet he still loved me in spite of all of that. And so then that's when it clicked to me. So this is what unconditional love is like. Yeah.
Gotcha. Of
mm.
course, I have to ask: have you all had the conversation about mommy being trans?
Yes, we
Okay.
have. But let me tell you.
Okay.
Once again, it's about laying the foundation. I laid that foundation beforehand. I didn't do it till he was 12, but I made sure that I exposed him to my world. And in exposing him to my world, I was always telling him, because he would see two guys kiss or two girls kiss, and he may tell you that I used to say, he said, "Did those two men just kiss?" I said, "Yes, they did. They love each other, and that's none of your damn business." That's what I would say to him. I said, "People have the right to love who they want to love," and so he developed that.
Mhm.
And so he didn't so then when I finally had the conversation with him about me, it was no big deal to him, because I was still mama. He knew I loved him.
what is the biggest lesson that you've learned thus far being a mom?
It's a lot of work. And it's a 24-hour job. I mean, it really is, because I did not realize how invested you really have to be in being a parent. So much goes into it. But I had to realize that what I did or what I didn't do affected him.
Mhm.
So I had to always be on the job. And the job never ends, and it's the best thing that has ever happened to me. I'm very grateful for the experience, because I don't know where my life would be had he not come into it. And I think that I still would have been looking for those empty relationships had I not experienced love on this level before.
Right. And let's talk about that. You did mention that you had a cycle of relationships, abuse. Tell us where that stemmed from and how did you go through the journey of getting on the other side of that and letting them go or moving or learning how to love yourself so you wouldn't have to learn those type of relationships again.
Well, I think it definitely it goes back to my past and those feelings of I felt that I was unloved, and so I would get in relationships just to not be alone with myself. And so I was looking for, so I thought that I needed someone else to fill those empty spaces that were within me. And so someone being there and being around me distracted me from me,
Mm.
Mm.
the harm that I was doing to myself. It just, it was a distraction. But once again, like I said, I would choose people. I didn't want the nice guy. I wanted the guy that was rough and would grab me by my arm and say, "Come here," because I said so, and because once again, that's what I thought love was about. And I was very cautious about how I disciplined him, because people like, you don't whoop him and this is this, because and a lot of people may say you're stupid for thinking this way, but I did not want him to think the way to get somebody to do what you want them to do, you got to be physical with them.
Yeah.
You got to put your hands on them, because I kind of think that that's where that develops.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
If I want you're I want you to clean your room. He doesn't clean his room. I beat him. He does it, and it becomes a repetitive pattern. Maybe in his mind he'll be like, "Oh, so if I want to get somebody to do what I want them to do, I need
I
to
mean,
hit them.
yeah.
I need to beat on them." That's how this works. And so I learned to communicate and talk to him, because you know right, doing the computer thinking of his brain as a computer. I'm doing the computer programming. And so now it's kind of backfired, because when I talk to him about certain things, I've communicated with him so that he'll say, "That don't make no sense. Help me understand what you're talking about, because right now I don't agree with what you're saying." It's very that, but
You did it.
I, I did it, but I'm very glad to
Good.
say that he's not going to accept anything.
Right.
Yeah.
He's gonna ask some questions. So
Mhm.
yeah, but
That's
yeah, but those relationships were bad, and I had moved to Dallas right after I gave up Miss Gay America. I moved to Dallas. I was in a relationship, and it was really it was more verbally and emotionally abusive, which I feel can be even more
Yes.
traumatic than the physical, because
Yes.
if you slap me, the black eye is gonna go away, but all of that other stuff sticks with you, and I absorbed all. And let me say this, it was in the midst of me transitioning too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm dealing with my own emotional things,
Mhm.
dealing with the transition, oh, am I, what am I going to look like? Am I going to pass? And, and he would say things to me like, you're never going to be as pretty as Raquel or Stasha. So why are you even bothering? He would say things like that, and then, and he would say things, like that I needed to stick with him because he was the one that was going to show me the right way, how to do this right and all this other kind of stuff. And so yeah, it was really, really bad. And how I got out of it was the emotional, the baggage didn't go away, but how I left the situation was, I had gotten really sick one time and I didn't know what was going on, but I had been sick for like 2 weeks. I didn't have a vehicle at the time. And I think I need to go to the hospital. I said, because I said, I feel really, I couldn't hold anything down. I had a fever that no matter, what I did, it wouldn't go away. And but he refused to take me to the hospital. So then 3 weeks went by. Now everything I eat, I'm vomiting. I can't keep anything down. Not and then it turned into I couldn't hold down liquids. And so I was living in Dallas, but I was still show director at the club down in Arkansas. So I was driving back and forth every weekend. And so I would stay with my sister when I went home. So one weekend I went down and I got on the airplane and I'm talking about I was sick, sick, sick. I was so sick, I went in the bathroom and I was just laying down on the sink because I just could not get comfortable. So I went and did the show that night. My words were slurring, my equilibrium was off. And so when I left the show that night, I called the emergency room and they said, you need to come in. So they started running all of these tests and all this stuff. Long story short, I had spinal meningitis.
Wow.
For 4 weeks, I had spinal meningitis. And the doctor, she said, how long has this been going on? And I said, oh, about 4 weeks. She said, had you waited 48 more hours, she said that would have traveled to your brain. And she
Mm.
said, you would have been dead. She says, what took you so long to come? The power, and I'm gonna speak on this part because everybody who criticizes Cassie for what happened with her and Diddy,
Mm.
people can control you in ways that you never know.
Mhm.
They control you, and to you, that's not what you think it is, but that really is what it is. And so they admitted me to the hospital. I call him to tell him I've been to the hospital. The first thing out of his mind was we had a roommate that lived with us, and he says, this bitch done went down to Arkansas and got checked into the hospital because she wants attention. And he said, when I see your ass, I'ma beat your motherfucking ass, is what he says. So at this point, I'm afraid for my life now. And so now I'm thinking about how I'm going to IV in my arm because they're having to give me IV fluids to to clear up the infection. I'm thinking about how I'm about to get this IV out my arm so I can get out the hospital so I can run before he make his way down to Arkansas.
Wow. Wow.
So you can be a prisoner
Yeah.
of a situation and not really know in the midst of it all that you are a prisoner. You're a prisoner
Mhm.
in your own life.
Mhm. Was it at that point
Mhm.
that you left, or did it take time?
I got checked out of the hospital a week later. I left, and he wouldn't let me take anything. Everything in the house was mine. Um, and when I told him I wanted to leave because I had talked to my baby sister. That's why I love my baby sister so much. She's always been that solid for
Mm.
me. Um, and she said, "Come on home." My sisters told me that. She said, and I had worked the show that weekend. I had given him all the money I had made that weekend. So I said, "I'm leaving. I need to go home. I need to go be with my family." And he said, okay, you can go, but you can't take none of, I couldn't take anything. And he wouldn't even give me money to catch a bus to go back home. So I had to call Matt Miller, who owned Woody's, and I think at the time he still owned Miss Gay, Texas. He gave me money to catch a Greyhound bus so I could go back home.
Wow. And you got free.
And I got free.
Did you ever
And,
get your
and
stuff?
I never got my stuff, but in that, when once I was free, and let me tell you something, the
Mhm.
sun never shined so brightly than the day
Mm.
I got off that Greyhound bus and walked to because my sister didn't live far from the bus station. The world never seemed so beautiful
Mm.
Wow.
than in that moment when I was free of that situation.
You know how a lot of girls say they like bad boys? Do you think that's connected to childhood trauma also? Like, do you think that is what attracts them to that type of energy is because that's what they were simply used to?
I'm not, Wendell, I'm not sure. I know for me, yes, but some people, that's a sign of true masculinity to them, and that's what being with a real man is like.
Mhm.
Somebody that's bossy and in control, and but you have to be careful what you expose yourself to, because it could turn out to be something very detrimental to you physically, possibly mentally, because if that's what you become accustomed to, somebody that's really meant for you or someone that really loves you, you won't even recognize that that person is there
Right.
because you
Mm.
don't see it for them.
Yeah.
Somebody that's sweet and nice and kind. I want a roughneck. Is that what they used to call them? I want a
Yeah.
roughneck. you know, uh, but the person that could really be meant for you, you're not going to even recognize that they're there
Yeah.
because of this desire for what the world or what society says is a real man.
You
Wow.
said boss and in control. I thought about all of the men and women in my life. Are boss and in control.
Well, we're glad that you escaped that. And we are so glad that you're still here. So, luckily for you, thank God that you checked yourself in due time so that you were able to escape and you were able to move on, have your child, talk to us today, and all the things. So, kudos to you for having
And
that
your health.
strength.
And
Yes,
your
and in
health.
good health.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Be- Before we play the game, let's talk one of your hot topics, politics. Now, girl, we don't bombed Iran. Tell us what's on your mind about that. What's up?
Other than the fact that he's a he's a lunatic and an idiot, that I mean, but what else can you say? But for him, here's the thing for me, and of course, I'm no expert. I'm still a student. I'm still trying to learn. But he knows that the people that follow him, he knows that that's what they want. And for them, that's a sign of strength to bully some, to I'm gonna bomb you. Oh yeah, he's a great president. He's they think that that means greatness to them, to be able to dominate somebody else or prove that you have power another group of people. But and I have some really wonderful friends, but that's kind of what their culture been doing for years. That's how
Yeah.
they've gotten everything that they wanted.
They
They've
take it.
taken it and they've
Yeah.
bullied other people to get it. So it's kind of a learned thing. That's the only way that I can describe it, because it's reality.
Yeah.
How do you, as Dominique,
Hmm.
deal with or befriend or associate with people who support Trump and what he's doing and all the things he's done? How does that work for you, or what does that look like?
It don't.
Okay.
It just doesn't. Um, if I see you, I can be high. It can be by, but for me to sit and listen to you talk about how you think this is right,
Yeah.
nah, I think I'll pass. I think I'm good.
So
Mhm.
go ahead. So what do you think we need to do moving forward when it comes to the political climate?
What we've always done, stay
Mhm.
strong until something better comes along. And but here's another part of it, right? We've got to do better, because what I have seen, and like I said, Wendell and I have great conversations about these things, is that it's really interesting to me how we check out on our own best interests. What we It just seems that we become so disengaged from the process.
Mhm.
And while there is a lot of us that are, there's a great number of us that aren't.
Hmm.
And then the ones that aren't, instead of trying to figure out why they should be, they waste their time trying to tell other people why they shouldn't.
Hmm.
It's not going to do any good. They're going to pick who they want to pick anyway, you know. But then, and I know people are going to be mad at me. That's why I began to understand why Wendell would say all the time he would call people slaves, because that slave mentality is still within us. And
Mhm.
and there are moments when we don't know what's best for us, and we refuse to see it.
Mhm.
And nothing good comes without struggle.
Yeah.
There's gonna be some painful moments. We're gonna have to take some losses,
Mhm.
but but the fight is worth it.
Yeah.
Once again, that's why I said I would love to be in the sixes, because those people, they didn't
They
give a
fall.
damn.
Mhm.
They
They
did.
did.
Fall.
You know what? This is worth you hating me even more than you already do. This is worth you killing me over,
Yeah, because there's so
because
many assassinations in the 60s.
so they realize, I think, even when they knew that they may not even get to enjoy the fruits of their labor, they knew that it was going to be better for people that came down the road.
Yeah. The present was already chaotic, so they was fighting for the future.
Right.
Right.
And so that's why I say, we've got to start learning how to be depositors into the bank,
Right.
instead of just wanting to withdraw from the work that other people did. Now it's time for us to invest,
Yeah.
so that the next generation has something to look forward to.
Okay.
But that's
Well,
just me. That's just
that's
how
you. That is
that's
you. You're
to
right.
me. That's how
To me.
to me,
So we're gonna
that's how
we're
I
gonna
feel.
yeah. So we are hour in. Great
Yes.
conversation. We'll play the game. So how we do
Sure.
it is I'll give you a word, person, place, or thing, and you give me the first thing that comes to your mind, and you're more than welcome to elaborate why you chose that word for that particular person, place, or thing. Okay.
Sure. Okay.
So I'll start off with Whitney Page.
Oh my God. You started with the big one. Big mama.
Big Mama.
Big, and not when as it relates to stature.
Mhm.
I I I I wish that everybody got to experience the Whitney that I got to experience when she lived in Arkansas.
Mhm.
Whitney was a protector, and she poured a lot of knowledge into me.
Mhm.
And one of the key things is really interesting. She had been there about a month or so ago, and we were in the dressing room, and she was walking out the door, and she had that thing. She stopped, and she went. She did that thing with her tongue, just stick that tongue out the side, and then I said, "What is it?" She said, "It's just really strange to me." And I was like, "What?" And she said, "You've got all this talent, but you have no belief in yourself." She said, I just don't understand." And she told me, I'll never forget it. She said, "I think it's best you leave this place and you go live somewhere else so you can grow."
Mhm.
Whitney told me that.
And did you do that?
I eventually did that.
Well, we miss Whitney, and hopefully
Yes, we
she's
do.
resting in peace. And we're glad that she's able to have her seed still here, Lindsay, keeping her name alive and everything. So shouts out to Whitney Page. Number two, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of or you hear Little Rock, Arkansas?
Home, but at but yet at the same time a prison. I
Mm.
think it stifled my growth. And for many reasons, so a lot that I really won't go into, but I think when you're a big fish in a small pond, you don't develop like you should because you already think you've gotten to that level. You've gotten to the pinnacle of things. And yeah, so but it was a prison of my own making because I mean I was doing well. And so
Okay,
I stayed.
gotcha.
Yeah.
What's the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear the NCA Spirit Stick?
The best there fucking is. We did that damn thing.
Yes, listen, give me that stick. No, you did.
Because there were
Did
so many great schools at camp. And
Mhm.
so when they rewarded you, you knew you did something to impress those
Yeah.
instructors. You know. So yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, absolutely.
Were you
Yeah.
ever? Because I did audition and try, but did you ever try out for staff?
I did not ever
Okay.
try for staff. But I
I
was on
was
I
on
was on
staff.
but I was on one of my friends that I cheered with in college. He joined an organization. It was called Cheerleaders of America, COA, and they did camps and everything. And so I did join that staff. But no, because I mean, because let's just say I've always was smile, and I would honey, because before then they weren't just picking people because you were a great tumbler. You had
You
to
had
know
to
how to
give
stunt and all
stunt,
that
yeah.
stuff. A
Yes, it
child,
is.
child, listen. I was wanting to be picked up, not to be picking nobody else.
Did you ever do Macy's Day Parade?
I I did not.
So yeah. Number four, Chevelle Brooks.
Oh, heavy Chevy. I love Chevelle. I love Chevelle, and and I'm very thankful for her allowing me to be a part of her show because it really helped me realize that I had a voice and I had things to say, and it allowed me to have the platform to be able to share my voice with, especially as a old, because when you get older, people start to count you out. And so it's just always good to be able to share your life experiences with other people and have a platform to do that, and then hope in hopes that there's something that you said that may reach somebody that's out there that needed to hear whatever it was that you said.
Okay. Number five, you had a moment in St. Louis. So what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of St. Louis?
Honey, it
You're
was
such a Southern Belle. You are a Southern
it
Belle.
was I had a great time. I did. I had a great time, but I think that all the drama that took place during that time overshadowed the really good thing that had happened there, because what I worked with some wonderful girls. The cast was great, the venue was great, but um yeah, but the drama of everything that happened, I think it overshadowed what was really, for the time that it was there, it was a really beautiful moment. It was really great. Yeah.
Okay. Number six, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of the night you won Miss US of A Classic?
Liberated. because that was the first time I competed and I feel like I was authentically myself. And I really felt like I had came into my own.
Okay.
And I was really happy with everything that I brought to the pageant. I really felt like this time. Now look, not to say that the other girls weren't good, but I was damn good this night. That and that was really freeing because I wasn't supposed to be there.
Mm.
I wasn't supposed to go. I had qualified to go to US of A, and then the owner of the club where I worked, he cut my work in half
Mm.
right after I qualified. And and I don't use my 9 to 5 money to do extracurricular stuff. I let the extracurricular stuff, that money pays for
Pay
itself.
for itself.
So he cut that off. So I had dropped out, and then Nancy called me and she says, "Why are you not doing the pageant?" I explained everything to her, and she says, "I think that's a bad mistake. But if you decide to go, I have a promoter that's willing to send you." And ironically, God works in really mysterious ways, and He shows up in moments that you never expect Him to show up. Right after I got off the call with Nancy, a friend of mine called me and he said, "Why aren't you doing the pageant?" I told him what happened. I said, "It's just not in the budget." He said, "Who are you going to get your gown from?" I said, "JD." He says, "Go to see JD, tell him what you want, and when it's time to pay for the gown, I got it."
Mm.
And people really, that's when I knew what an impression I had made on some people, because they really rallied around me in that moment, and they really showed me a lot of support that I had never felt before. Yeah.
Okay. Number 7. What's the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear Harriet Tubman?
A bad bitch. Now that is the only way to describe someone who had gotten free and risked her own freedom to go back and free other people. That's the only way to describe her. And I know that's not a very nice thing to say, but if I put it
Yes, it
into
is.
when I put it into 2025 times, that was a bad bitch.
Mm.
Because she was like, "I'll be damned if you gonna keep my people. If you gonna keep my people, I'm going to go get my folks."
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Number 8. What's the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear Barack Obama?
Oh, iconic. A legend for me. Um, Not perfect, but I do feel like he did everything that he could with the power that he had. Even in the face of adversity, when I can't remember who was speaker then, but when they said, "We're gonna make sure everything that he brings up, we're gonna see to it that it fails."
Mhm.
But he kept pushing and he kept fighting.
Mitch McConnell.
Mitch, it was that old turtle
Uh,
look, looking
uh,
thing.
listen. Number 9. Norma Christie.
A legend, the the first. And contrary to popular, because let me just say, I'm gonna say this first before I get to this other part. Norman could be a bitch to work with, but when I tell you, he really does have a giving heart. He really does, and it's a side of him that he doesn't show a lot of people, but it's really there. And when he believes in you, there's nothing he wouldn't do for you. But baby, I'm gonna tell you something. You you better you when he say do, You do, because oh baby, the wrath of that man is unrelentless. I'm just here to say
And what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear the word family?
my strength and foundation. Because without them and without the family that loved me, I don't think I still would have been here.
Mhm.
Gotcha.
All those moments that I contemplated ways to take myself out of the world, it was them that gave me reason to stay, and they helped me even when I was mentally not right, because I was dealing with all of my trauma. They still helped me see some value
Mhm.
in me. So
Okay.
yeah.
So you are a part of a very select group of girls when it comes to Miss Gay America, the Black
Mhm,
girls. It's very
mhm.
few of you all. You are fortunate enough to have won that some years ago. What year were you again?
Oh, 03.
Oh, three.
2003.
Um, yeah. And so tell us about winning Miss Gay America in your reign. How was that for you? How did it change your life? What was being that title for you? What did it mean to you?
It was definitely a teacher, because the things that you are expected to do as Miss Gay America, I don't think you're expected to do for any other pageant. And you have to learn how the business works. And and when they say representative, you are that. You go to the preliminaries, you conduct the orientations, you brief the judges, you have to oversee the scores, you have to tabulate the scores. So it really taught me a lot about how to to win a title, and it be a year of service,
Mhm.
which I think is really important as a title holder. I mean, yeah, you enjoy the moments, and you have your moments when you're on stage. But I also think it should be a year of service to the system for which you reign.
Mhm. Gotcha.
And it really, so, and I carried that knowledge with me for every even though it was not expected, I carried that knowledge with me to every other national title that that I held after that. And it taught me a lot about how to live life, because I learned how to be organized. I learned how to talk to people. I learned how to conduct business. I learned how to negotiate. I learned how to deal with people in hostile situations, because when you're a national title holder and people are upset, it was our job to go, fix the situation.
Mhm.
And so, you learned how to deal with people, but deal with them where they are.
Mhm.
You learned how to be diplomatic, and you learned how to give the same message, but you may say it differently for different people.
Mm.
And so, and like I said, that's what really helped me as when I became Miss USA, because when I won Miss USA, Jerry said, all I care about, you go to the pageants, you perform, you look nice. But his tune changed when I would call him at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning and told him I sold a prelim. Just from having a conversation with somebody in the bar. Oh, I love drag. I'll never do it. Oh, really? Have you thought about being a promoter? I never thought about that. It, honey. And then I said, are you interested? Yeah, I'm interested, honey. I would call Jerry right then, and I'd be like, send this person this information. I just sold you a prelim.
Mm.
And so those things, learning that business aspect really helped me, because honey, nobody will ever know me as being a woman of clothes. I can own that. You'll never
Mm.
know me for that. But baby, I'm telling you, when it comes to this thing I got up in here,
Mm.
And when it comes to knowing how to run the contest and
Mhm.
be the face of the contest, you can't take that away from me.
Yeah.
Because
What
that was
do,
where my strengths lie.
so we have to have a little spice in the conversation.
Hmm.
You were a black girl that was Miss
Hmm.
Gay America.
Hmm.
At any time, did you feel or did you experience any type of racism, any type of prejudice when you had your title and through your year?
Not that I can remember,
Okay.
but I did encounter a contestant that I competed against that was racist,
Mhm.
but she was not so much. Her hate towards me was, well, it could have been both. It could have been both,
Mhm.
but it was more about the fact that she had not won, and she resented me for that.
Mhm.
But it could. But once again, it could have been this black bitch beat me. It could have been that too.
Right, right.
But but no, not really. Because let me tell you. Let me say this. People who support MGA, they support MGA regardless of who she is.
Okay.
They really love the system, and when you win, they really support the winner.
Mhm.
Now, I'll tell you, if you don't do right, they gonna tell you.
Mhm.
Oh, if you did not do your job, they're gonna definitely make sure you knew that. But yeah, the experience was amazing, and I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
What do you think the formula is to winning that particular title, if there is one?
I wouldn't say that there's a formula, but what I do have to say, and people look at me crazy when I say this, with Gay America, if you really want to be considered a contender, you've got to sell that in interview.
Mm. Mhm.
You got to prove to them that you know what you're there for, and
Mhm.
what the job is. That's what I think. And then and for me, before you win, you have to already embody those qualities, because once you get up on stage, they see that in you.
Mhm. Mhm. Gotcha. So interview, you have to go in there selling yourself, is what you're saying.
Well, your knowledge of the system and your
Mhm.
ability to do the job,
Mhm.
because I have to say 75% of the job is administrative. And if we're going to entrust you to get out there and do this thing, you got to make sure you got to let us know you know what you're doing.
Mhm. Okay.
And even though the owners, they take you down for a week, which every down in they're in Florida now, and you have a full week of orientation with them,
Mhm.
and they go through the handbook with you, and they tell you what your job is, but you should already have some knowledge of what you're there for.
Mhm. Okay. Um, would you have changed anything about your reign?
I wish I
Maybe
knew more.
anything you would have done differently or anything.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Most definitely. I wish I had known a lot of different people at that point, because I didn't meet the Calexuses and the Victoria LePages and the Tommies and all of that stuff until after the fact. And I think I would have been more well dressed as a
Okay.
title holder. I know that's where that was not a strength of mine, and I know that that's something that I definitely could have stepped up.
Mhm.
But I did what I knew,
Mhm.
because that's the only thing you can bring to the table is what you know how to do. And so I wish I had that knowledge and had those people around me that could have advised me better as it related to that piece of it.
How do you feel about the representation of African American girls holding that title being so small or being so little?
Well, not very many of us do it.
Okay, so that's
To
one
to
thing.
to 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 to, to begin with, not very many of us do it. But I wish there were more.
Hmm. Okay.
I definitely wish that there were more of us. I don't think that it's a thing about, oh, they just don't want any more of
Hmm.
us.
Right.
But but to compete for America, it's just a different it's a different type of competition.
Hmm.
It's just, and I don't know how to really put it into words per se, but it's just different because it's not so much always about what you look like. It's just, there's just something different they're looking for.
Gotcha.
And so, but once you grasp that,
Hmm.
and you know how to sell that, that's when you see success there.
Gotcha. Now, of course, you cannot be, well, back then, you could not be a girl competing for Miss Gay
Mhm,
America. You transitioned after you
mhm.
relinquished the title. Going back as a representative or going back as a former, do you get any backlash because you transitioned?
No,
Okay.
no, 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 no. They were, when I tell you, and however you want to say it, the brotherhood, the sisterhood, when I tell you the sisterhood there is very supportive of the people who have won, they really are.
Okay. Okay.
And we're always in contact with each other, and it really is a family environment. And when you go, you feel the magic of being a part of that family.
Okay.
And once you have won, the people who support the system, they never let you forget you are part of that legacy.
Mhm.
They treat you just well. Of course, the reigning always gets treated the
Get
best, but
treated.
you will never know that it's always a special moment every. And when you don't come, people start, where have you been? We
Mm,
want to see you.
right.
You haven't been in
Okay.
this many years. Come on back. And when you come back, so that's why, when you see people post videos at the Robinson Auditorium, that's why the lines be all the way back to the entry doors.
Mhm.
They love their queens.
That's
They love their queens.
and you everything that you've said about the system, what it takes to be an administrator and all of that, push you on a spot. Name me one girl who you would love to see hold that title.
Miss Gay America,
Yeah,
Kennedy.
Davenport.
I've been trying to talk Kennedy into going for years, but she says she intends to go. Um, I would love to see Kennedy be a miss. I think she has what it takes. I think, and she would be a complete package. And then with her having this experience as a promoter now, she can bring that experience with
Mhm.
her. And I think it'd be great because she would tap to a lot of demographic of people, or areas that we have not yet really tapped into. And I think that she could really move us into those places and into those directions.
How do you feel about the new division, Miss Gay America Film, that's allowing cis women as well as the trans girls to compete?
I love it.
Okay.
I love it. It's something that when they first bought Biscuit America, this was something that they had been talking to for a very long time. But it just took a while for all of the logistics to come together. But when most girls, well, when most people think about pageantry, you know not Miss Gay America, but Miss America is what they first hear about. And
Yes.
and a lot of girls, they want to be Miss America. And so now this gives every entertainer in our business the opportunity to be Miss America.
Could you
Shots out
go and
to
compete for it?
Hmm?
Is it open for like formers that have transitioned to compete?
Oh, I'm sure that I could, but I'm on the board,
Okay.
She's on the
and
board of directors in this
yeah,
company.
yeah. I'm on the board, so I would not do that, because I just want to be a part of the growth. I've asked, how I could be more instrumental in the day-to-day operations of that division. So I want to be more instrumental in ensuring that what Miss Gay America is, I want to ensure that Miss America Femme is right along those same levels. And by me have been a Miss Gay America, I could be instrumental in ensuring that
Mhm.
that stays on that same path.
Gotcha. You are double US of A. So it's obvious
Mhm.
that you loved that system. Tell us
I do.
about that journey to go where you went twice.
So I did US of A initially because when I was coming up in the business, people told me I couldn't get it. So that's why I said, okay, no problem. I'm gonna go over here and I'm gonna show you better than I can tell you that I could do it. And it was a great experience because then I was able to explore a lot of freedoms. As now, because even Miss America has changed in a lot of ways since Mike and Rob have taken it over. But I was able to be who I was. If I want to go out there and if I wanted to do Lil' Kim and say bitch, suck, eat dick, I could do all of that. I could do all that and be unapologetic about it. And
Right.
it was just great to be able to be free and to do my and to be myself. With classic, I did classic because once again, this was after all of my therapy had taken place, and I knew myself better. I felt better about myself. So then I wanted to reign as this new person that I had become, because I knew that this new me was going to enjoy the experience
Mhm.
so much better than the me prior to that. And I loved Jerry. I loved the system, and so I was like, hey, this is another way for me to
Right.
stay involved.
How many years apart was Miss and Classic that you competed?
I did not realize this. Every national title that I've won were all 7 years apart.
Number of
Wow.
completion.
It was 7 years from me being Miss America to Miss USA, 7 years from being Miss USA to Miss USA Classic.
Oh, that's the number of completion.
So
So
I think, so I think it was all meant to be. Everything happened when it was meant to
to be.
when it was meant to be. Yeah.
And that's
Dominique, I
typically
have a
how
question.
it works. You line up when you're typically meant to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
what you're
Yeah,
going
I
to
have
be.
a question about US of A because we've never had this conversation. I think it
Hmm.
was your second year or maybe your first year, final night, when you were doing the tumble pass for
Hmm.
talent and you had the accident.
Yes.
How long did you have to recover from that mentally? Was that like a stain? Was that traumatizing? Like how did you feel?
Let me say, I never tumbled a day after that.
Oh wow.
So
I
explain what happened because some people may not know exactly what happened before you go into
so let me say, the whole time that we practiced on a spring floor in a gym, and I underestimated the uh the makeshift stage, the stage that they use.
it. Mhm.
And so the runway wasn't as giving, it didn't give like I had expected it to. And so I didn't set as high as I should have. And so I ended up crashing, and I fell on my ankle, and I messed it up. I mean,
Yeah.
but I finished my talent though. I
Yeah.
was hopping,
Uh,
I was hopping around on one leg, still doing all the upper body choreography. I did not quit. And And I'll never forget, they took me backstage. Somebody was one of the Mr. MI was a EMT. He came back there, wrapped up my ankle, and they said, "Okay, well, we're gonna get you to the back to your hotel and all this stuff." And Ron Tankersley came up to me. And he said, "Are you leaving?" And I said, "No." I said, I'm gonna go ahead and continue on, and I'm gonna do evening gown." And I'll never forget, Raquel Lord came back there. She said, "You only got one leg." She said, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And I started crying. And Calexis came by, and Calexis said, "Are you sure?" I said, "Now it's not about the winning, it's about finishing the race," because so
Oh.
many people had invested in
Mm.
me being there, and I owed it to them to see it through, whether I won or lost. So that's why when you watch Evening Gown, I'm out there. Chris, oh my God, Christopher Maserati Steele escorted me out for Evening Gown because I really couldn't bear a lot of weight
Mm.
on
On
the
that
on
ankle.
the ankle. And so then when they called us back out for comparative, there I was like number 9 or 10 or whatever, and they were making us walk the runway, and I was like, I know damn well they not gonna make me walk this.
Goodness.
But baby, I hobbled down the runway and hobbled my way back. But but once again, it wasn't about um the win at that point. It was just about I wanted to complete what I had started.
Well, that's good.
And you haven't tumbled since that night?
I have not tumbled since that night.
Wow.
Wow. Doctor's orders, or you're just on fear?
I think it was a block because
Okay.
you're always told if when you're doing a skill and you fall or something, you're supposed to get right back out there, or
Mhm.
you will develop a mental block, and I think that is what happened to me.
Gotcha. Flame wants to know. Hi, Flame.
Mhm.
Are you coming back to judge King and Queen?
If they have me, if they have, that was a wonderful experience. Ray Sean does his thing, and
Can you?
and and I loved the environment, and since she wanna ask me questions, Flame gave me my first edible while I was there.
Oh!
Flame is the dumb lady because
Listen,
everybody always says she gave them.
I had never had one before, and I
I
was
think
not
you talked about that on your point
prepared.
of view.
I was not prepared for what it put me through. Let me tell you, I got back. Luckily, I got back to the hotel before it set in. Because when I tell you, I felt like I was paralyzed, and I was just laid up on that bed. Because I don't smoke. I'm a drinker. I don't smoke or anything, baby. When I tell you, it put me down through there. But I still
Oh,
got one left, so I'm gonna save it for a special occasion.
Flame is passing out the edibles, guys, at Queen. Make sure you're there.
I love flying.
um, Miss Gay America, Miss US of A, Miss US of A Classic.
Mhm.
This is the most in inbox I've gotten, probably about 7 inquiries of this question I'm gonna ask you.
Sure.
Why haven't you crossed over to what we consider the Black scene? Black America, Black Universe, or
I
any of the owners of Black Sisters?
Oh, my Uncle Antonio is on here. Yes, Uncle, I did an edible, but don't judge me. So I'm gonna be really honest. It's a confidence thing
Mm.
because all the years that I've watched the videos or I've been at a contest, that's something different. And that's a level of confidence that is unmatchable. It's just unmatched to me. The way that you all are when you're out there on that stage. And I don't feel that I have mastered that because if I'm going, I want to go knowing I'm right there, I'm in the running. But let me just say, I do intend to go. I do intend to compete before I retire. And there's two systems. There's three actually that I want to do and I want to win, and that's MBA. MBU. No, yeah, NBA, MBU, and Westland.
Okay. Okay. So y'all hear that? Dominique is interested, so please support her when she decides to come. And
And
I
y'all
get
know
what
when
you're
she
saying.
come.
Yeah, I definitely understand what you're saying about the confidence thing. It is definitely a different level, but I feel like you have the main categories, i.e., interview and or question, or both, because Westland has both, and we know
Mhm.
that you're talented. So would
And she's
would
gonna always have a
But
gown.
it's the because when those girls come out there and they model like they shit don't stink. And that's what I need to work on. So what I've started to do, knowing that this is what I want to venture into, when I'm on my shows now,
Mhm.
I do my stank walk, baby. I do my stank walk. Well, I'm up there because baby, listen, if when I come out there with my sportswear, bitch, I want to tap my heel too, and
Yes.
then pooch off to the other side. I want to.
You know, the first thing I thought about was Whitney Page when she did Black Universe for Sportswear.
Yes, when she came out there, she was just a no, I think that you would be an asset to either of those, but of course, I'm going to always support Black America before the rest of them. So hopefully, hopefully you'll come on over there. I know that he will love you and definitely will be a jewel to that dynasty over there with us. But you can always go anywhere. We love you. But I think that was a question that so many people want to know. Why she's been all of that? Why not Black America? Or why not Black Universe? But she's coming, guys. So give her time. To all of you
Yeah,
that inbox me that.
I got to be because I don't do anything until I don't compete just for the sake of competing.
Okay.
I compete when it's right for me. I feel it. It's here, and there's nothing that's stopping me from going. But then also, I compete when my spirit tells me this is the right fit for you in this moment. Go.
Okay.
And then baby, but when I move, oh, I'm gonna move.
Gotcha. So no interest or desire to be Miss Continental or
Yeah,
elite? Okay.
yes. Yeah, I want to do that, and then I also want to do because one thing that has not yet happened is there's never been a Miss America that has won a continental title ever.
Oh.
So if Pataya were to by some chance win this September, she would be the first Miss America to win a continental national
Oh,
title.
wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I would like to be, Lord, please don't let me get too old, but I stay pretty active. I would like to repeat Ray Sean that because he's the first entertainer to ever win the original four systems.
Mhm.
He's the only entertainer that has ever done that. There's now that there's Miss America film, there's some that can now do that because Raquel has won three. She could win film or Gabby and all that stuff. But yeah, so there's some personal accomplishments
Okay.
just for my own self gratification, not because I want the accolades of it. It's just some things that I want, for my own personal achievement.
Okay. We're gonna get that stank walk
Get
together
your
and
EGOT.
maybe you and your hubby could reign together. You never know what's gonna happen in the future, right? At Black America.
Let me call Baxter and see where he gonna send me.
You know, that could be sending people the wrong place sometimes. We don't always want to listen to that. But no, that's good to know. Drag is something that is ever evolving. It is something that is changing. Numbers are down. We always hear this, and I always ask this question: why do you feel numbers are down in certain systems? If you have an answer to that.
I've thought about that, but I think that there was a shift that the pageantry world wasn't prepared for, because if you really think about it, right before the pandemic, we had a major exodus of all the girls who were competing for pageants a lot. It seemed like they all dropped out at the same time.
Mm.
They
Mhm.
all decided, I'm not competing anymore. I'm done. And so now now we have the separation of the divisions, which thins it out a lot more. And I just think the dynamic of what being a title holder was, it's not really there anymore. Because if you remember, being a national title holder was the pinnacle of the drag world.
Yeah.
And those were the entertainers that got paid the most. Those were the people that everybody aspired to be. But then comes along the reality shows, like RuPaul's Drag Race, and then social media exploded, and now you have people that are uh these internet personalities. So now girls are finding other ways to be icons in the business. So it no longer requires me to do a pageant. I don't have to. I don't. So I think that there's multiple factors that are involved, and so I think that's the contributing thing. You see us an uptick, but I think that it's going to take the systems coming not together, but they meet with their staff, their formers, and all this, and they're going to have to rethink how they're going to recapture the admiration of the community, how they're going to because they're going to have to learn how are we going to compete against all this other stuff that's going around. And I think that some of them are figuring it out, but it's going to take a collective effort, and it can't just be the promoters responsible for this.
Yeah.
the
Do you
the
think?
the 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 formers are going to have to get on board. If this is a system that you say you really loved and you really wanted to be a part of, then you're going to have to help recruit and get people on. And I know that a lot of promoters don't require it, but even the reigning court is going to have to get involved.
Yeah.
Everybody's got to be. You're going to have to work together to
Do
get
that
out
part.
there. To get they have to. Because if you remember what made pageantry so wonderful, it was wonderful because the title holders were accessible. We didn't have all this social media, so the entertainers were going here, there, and when they went somewhere, the bars were packed from the front to the back, from the ceiling to the floor, because they belonged to the community. And they engaged with the community. And so, we've got to go back to the roots of pageantry and what made it what it was in the first place. But but we can't just depend on the promoters to do that,
Right. Do you
because
think we need an alliance?
it wouldn't hurt. It would not hurt for everybody to come together to have a conversation about what's going on with pageantry and how we can recapture, because it's definitely still there. But what I do know, especially as it relates to me, people go to places where they feel like people want them. And so, and as the title holders are traveling, they've got to do more with engaging the potential contestants. They've got to start talking to people. I'm not saying that they're not, but they're gonna have to do even more. Because there's a difference in seeing a flyer and saying, yeah, okay, yeah, I think I'm interested, as opposed to Trinity Black came up to me and she told me that she thought I was beautiful and she thought I was talented and she thinks that I should compete for Miss Duval Plus. People will compete for that reason, because you showed an interest in them. And the promoters, they don't have that connection. I mean, they know people, but
Right.
my
Not the
thing is,
same.
because it's not the same when people would compete because somebody came to them and said, I see something in you that tells me you would be great for our system. Have you ever considered it? And that's memorable. and they'll never forget that experience. You never. I think a lot of entertainers don't realize the influence they have on up and coming people, or even us old heads. You know, no, really, because had I had, not to say that there's none, but if someone had come to me and said, you know what, Dominique, you would be an amazing Miss Black Universe. Come on, let me help you get ready. I may would have done it before now.
Right. That makes
So
sense.
I think that's where we have to go. That's where we have to get to.
Yeah.
And and I think that's a way that you show the promoters or the owners that you appreciate how wonderful they are. I mean, because you say she made me feel like a queen, the best reign I ever had. You sent me here, you gave me my booking fee, you always pay me top dollar. Now I'm not gonna get you no contestants though. I'm not gonna recruit nobody, but you were the best promoter I ever had. I mean, make it make sense.
Right.
Because if somebody is so wonderful and they've done all of this for you, that's one way you can show your appreciation, because they're not asking you to give them their money back. So how about do something to help put some money back in their pockets
Right.
by recruiting some contestants and give them, they can get those entry fees. And then when those people who've never competed before come, that means you're getting people who've never come to compete. I mean, come to see the pageant before come.
That's true.
So it benefits. And then when that happens, and because you were so influential in reaching these people, there's more money in your pocket that you'll give up.
You talking good now.
I'm just trying to, think about ways that we can change this narrative.
Yeah.
Because something has to be done differently, because you cannot expect me as a promoter, because some promoters love it, and more power to them. If that's what you want to do, great. But I'm not going to have you to expect me, when they'll say it, I'm not going to pay $30,000 for a venue, pay the staff, pay for the awards, put up the money for the prize packages, house the judges that's coming to judge the contest, probably put them up, and you want me to go recruit the contestants? I'll be damned. No, man. What do I have you for?
Right.
And I'm not saying that anybody's wrong or anybody's right, but really look at it from the bigger perspective. That's the one way that you can show people that if you say that everybody talks about how wonderful Mr. Rick and Miss Marissa are. That's
They
how you
are.
show. That's what I'm saying. And so by them being so wonderful, even as a former, I'm gonna make sure I bring you at least one person.
Right.
Because let me tell you something, bitch. You treated me good my year, and I'd be damned if I don't let big numbers always be there for you. That's
Right.
how I would see it. So that's why I'm always in recruitment for Gay America,
Yeah.
for USA, and all of that stuff, because I owe that to them, because I've had this experience because of you, and this is my way to give back to what you did for me. That's just me. That's just me.
You're depositing. Yeah.
Depositing. So we're noticing this trend lately. We know that when you're a queen or a king, you have to perform, look nice, have decent clothes and all of that. But lately, a lot of systems are doing away with interview and question and answer. What's your take on that?
I want to know who I'm sending out there. And I think that's how you get to know who this person is. Not saying that it has to necessarily be an administrative piece, but you should know the personality of the individual that you're sending out representing your system. And then if they're going to represent your system, do they know how to do that effectively?
Mm-hmm.
Can they speak in complete sentences? Do they know how to have do they know how to have a conversation? Even basic conversations. You should, because it's called a representative for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that everywhere you are, you're representing the system, and you should be speaking for the system and promoting the system. And so that takes communication skills.
Mhm. You're right.
But that's just me. But what the rumor mill is that they do it to make it easier for those that don't. But isn't that what competition? If you should prepare for speaking categories just as much as you would prepare for when you're buying your gown, when you're rehearsing for your talents, your sports wares, and all of that other kind of stuff. There's too many interview coaches out there because nobody says, because most interviews are about personal. It's about personality. If you can't sell yourself, then you definitely can't sell this pageant.
Sell the brand.
I mean, I'm just saying. So you should be able to go into an interview setting and effectively communicate
Mhm.
with the panel.
Right.
I don't think taking it away is helping anybody.
Mhm.
It's actually kind of, I think it's a hindrance because, you know, that's a skill that's not only good for the pageant arena, you can use that for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And then when you go interview for jobs and stuff, you can do that effectively because you had these 7 hoes critique you to death and tell you what you didn't do right, what you did, all that's going to help you. It's character building for me.
Right.
And you're learning and learning and you're developing a life skill
Hmm.
because you can't go through life not speaking to people. So you may as well learn it with your own folks. Now some of them may laugh at you, but hey, you're gonna learn. You're gonna learn. Yeah.
Do
So
you
that's
feel
kind of where I stand on the matter.
after a pageant, we always have the Mondays and the backlash, and you have
Hmm.
contestants that may feel they were done wrong. You have systems that they speak on things or what have you. Do you think when a contestant that has lost
Hmm.
comes on the social media, reads events, feels the type of way after the loss, do you think that is entertaining, or do you think it's hindering them from their next step?
Well, first let me say I don't find it entertaining.
Okay.
I'm not too much of a drama entertainment style person anyway. That's just not my gig.
Mhm.
But this is someone that's wanting to be heard, which I get, and they want to express how they feel about their experience. But I am a big believer that go to people who can do something about it.
Mhm.
If you want to vent or you felt that you were done wrong, go tell the people that had a say in what that was. Especially if you felt like you were judged unfairly, talk to those judges because your friends or the people that you're venting to, they're not gonna. There's nothing they can do, they're using it for. Most people use that for entertainment, and so I've always been a big believer in either you can define the moment or the moment can define you. And a lot of times you have a lot of people that allow the moment to define them. And trust me, I know the hurt and the pain of loss, but I'm also a believer that if it's not going to change anything, find somebody that you can trust that will hear you out, and that won't judge you. They're gonna be your friend. They're gonna hold your hand, and they're gonna listen to everything that you have to say, because once again, the people that you're doing this that you do this for on social media, they're just there for the entertainment of it. They're not there because they're about to offer you any help.
Mhm. Mhm.
But
Um,
once again, that's just
that's just you.
that's just how I feel about it.
um, generations, the generation above, will say mine, feels as though that my generation, or the generation behind me, don't respect them in this art form. My generation and the generation behind me feels as though the older generation doesn't respect up and coming. Where do you think the disconnect is at?
There's something to be learned both ways because definitely experience that their experiences in the industry when you're talking about the veterans of the business, there's a lot to be learned about what they've been through and what they know. That's very valuable.
Mhm.
But then as you continue to be in the industry, there's something to be learned from the babies too. I want to learn, hey, you can be like, oh, I'm 60 years old. Hey, I want to see how you shake that one leg too. So but
Right.
but I think that for some, I think for some, and I think you may can you can attest to this. Sometimes people, they're afraid of someone coming in and taking something from them. And that's why they may sometimes turn the younger generation away because I think a lot of people feel that if she catch up to me or she gets this knowledge that she's seeking, then that's one more person that I've got to compete against.
Right.
Some people look at it that way. So for a lot of them, it's they're trying to hold on to something, but
Mhm.
you've got to pass the torch.
Mhm. Right.
And your legacy will be your legacy, and the people that love you are going to love you regardless of who comes up behind
Yeah.
you. What benefit does it do me if Jay were to call me on the phone, y'all's Miss USA, well, our Miss USA, she's your Miss Texas. If she were to call me and she'll say, I don't really know anything about the business aspect of this. Could you help me? And what good would it do me to be like, child, you better figure it out? What sense does that make?
Yeah.
I'm going to share, and I don't, and I can only share. I don't know a whole lot, but everything that I do know, I'm gonna share it with you,
Mhm.
and I'm gonna tell you what worked for me. And then but don't do it like I did it. You take what I'm giving you and you make it work for you and you do it your way. Because the way that you're going to do it is going to reach your generation, the
Right.
people that are following you.
Right.
But we've got to equip, and I can only, because I'm one of the older people, we've got to, if we want to see this thing continue, we've got to equip the younger generation. We
Yeah.
have to, because if we don't, then we're going to continue to be talking about the numbers are going down. Nobody wants to, that's what's going to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's either help them or they're going to run away.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that's what happens with all these. I think that's been a contributing factor with any and everybody starting their own system.
Mm. Mhm.
They didn't feel heard, they didn't feel listened to, they felt dismissed. Okay, well then I'm not going to bother with it anymore. Let's go over here. Joe, you got a little money, start this.
Do you think that hurts or helps with so many systems? Because now I don't feel heard at this system. Let me go
Mhm.
try this one. But at the same time, it's so spread out. Like Sunday, it was 4 pageants Sunday night.
Yeah.
So do you think being oversaturated hurts or helps the community as a whole?
I'm going to have to go with too much of something is not always great.
Not
because
true.
because here's the thing. The one, you lose the exclusiveness of being a national title holder when you've got 60 of them. And then when you be like, I'm a national title, for which one? Which system we talking about? And so I think, and it definitely hurts numbers because now Because some people just want that behind their name. I'm a national title holder. Some people, that's all they want.
Yeah.
They don't care about what it's for.
Which
They
it
just
is.
they
Yeah.
they just want to be able to say that, and now you can get it anywhere.
Now I can walk at any system that may have the walk and stand next to the Miss USA's and Miss Continentals, and you're Miss Green Tree National.
Yeah,
So yeah,
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 yeah. I think because now because that's more division, because not only are we being divided by age, we being divided by weight. We got the newcomer division, and now there's 100,000 pageants. Now everybody really spread out.
right.
I don't, really, and people be like, well, I don't have to go do Black America because I'll go over here and go do Miss Chocolate City, and I'm finna walk in the same spaces as she gets to walk in.
Right.
So I don't think that people really thought about um the repercussions of having too much.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
When we
Because
talk
yeah,
about when
go
we
ahead.
talk about longevity, you've been in the business a while, and you've definitely been very successful. So I want to know from you. We ask every guest this: three girls who you
Mhm.
feel will have longevity in this industry. Who do you like? Who do you see it for?
Three girls that will have longevity in this business.
Hmm.
And these are newer people, or
They don't have
or
to be
not
newer
not
people.
not 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 a part of the newer generation.
They could be
Part of the new
newer. They could be up and coming girls that you just like and you feel as though they're going to be
three
here
three
for a
okay,
while.
three girls that I like. Okay. I have my three.
Okay.
I have my three. Definitely Giselle, because Giselle has a drive about her that I haven't really seen in a lot of people,
Hmm.
and she's always looking for her next,
Hmm.
and I think she's really hungry, and so I think she's just gonna keep shooting and shooting and shooting and shooting and shooting and shooting until she decides, okay, you know what, I'm done shooting.
The clip is empty.
Yeah, so that the clip is empty. Somebody else that I really really like, I like Amaya. I like Amaya's energy.
Glamazon or John?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, Maya Glamazon. I like her. I like her energy. She looks like I've been around her a few times. She's a good time girl, and I like that about her. And I think what I really like about her is that she's unapologetically herself.
Yes,
Hmm.
she is.
Either you do or you don't. And if you don't, fuck you. That's kind of how that's and I can respect a girl that feels that way.
Hmm.
And then I'm going to have to go with someone that I got to know since I lived here. I think I can see Janae being one of those people,
Okay. Okay. Shouts
because
out to Miss
she
Johnny.
because she's very hungry. And then the other thing that I like about her is that she has so many different irons in the fire,
Mhm.
because she's a fashion designer, she's a singer, she's a dancer, she's a pageant girl. From what I've heard, she's thinking about doing the ballroom thing. She's friendly. She gets along with people, and the way that you interact with the public can take you so far. I think that that's what contributes to the longevity of
Mhm.
career to me. I think that that's why the people that we know, or the people that we consider legends, like Tommy and Hot Chocolate and the Whitneys, because the people loved them, and they belonged to even though they benefited from the celebrity that they had, but they belonged to the community, and they made the community believe that they were a part of them. And
Mhm.
that's what made the community love them.
Mhm.
And that's what really, because people probably ask, how is Tommy still going? I don't know how old my Aunt Tommy is, but I know that she's been in the industry a really long time. But people love that lady and they want her around and they feel like she's a part of them. And I think that that contributes. She can do it for another 20 years if she wants to, I believe, because that's just, and I feel the same way about Naisha. I mean, just people who have really captured the hearts of the public. I think that that's what really contributed to their longevity. Now, what could stunt your longevity is when you are an accomplished person, but you're a bitch to everybody,
Yeah.
and you're a cunt, and nobody can stand you.
Not a
Because
con.
because well, that's that country part of me. That may even be that white school girl. But yeah, when people when you're in trouble when you're an accomplished person, but people still don't like you.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know, I think they and you can think that, oh, I'm going to make it in spite of. Not if they don't like you enough, you won't. Because
This
pretty
this
soon
community will definitely
the
show you
the
that.
the, the word will get around, and then you'll be like, why is this not happening for me? Because of the way that you've treated people, and nobody sees it for you anymore, and they don't want it for you anymore. You have to always be very careful with how you interact and how you treat people, because if the public don't get you, I'm a big believer God will stop you.
Jesus. You said that. You said that. Four entertainers, living
Hmm.
or not,
Hmm.
that you would put on your Mount Rushmore of drag.
Okie dokie. Coco. A lot of people don't know who Coco is. Coco's a former Miss USA and a former Miss Entertainer of the Year. One of the most amazing entertainers I had ever seen. And she was one of the first people that I saw blend her hip hop, Latino style, and her
Mhm.
technical dance training all into one. And it was a magical thing to see. She was, whenever I was around her, she was always a beautiful spirit. I would put Whitney on there, of course. I could not um omit Norman, because he was the first. And then after he was the first, he took over the system and kept it going, in which a lot of systems were birthed from Miss Gay America. So I have to put him on there. And then let's see, who else do I need? Living or dead? Wow. This is a hard one. The last one is a tough one. You know what? I'm gonna have to put Naisha on there. No, no. What, can I have two?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I
Yeah,
have two more?
you can do
Okay.
five.
Okay.
You can do two.
You can,
Two
perfect,
more.
perfect. Okay, because there's one person I cannot forget now. I gotta talk about her before we go. Yeah, I put Naisha on there, but then I've got to put Taj Mahal on there because of what she was to me spiritually.
Oh.
She came into my life in a very low moment in my life when I was in my suicidal moments,
Mm.
and she introduced me to God, and she made me start, because my family had given me the foundation of God and the Bible and all that stuff, but she got me back to reading and studying and living
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
life. you know she's the one that made me feel that, despite of what the public says about me as it relates to my lifestyle,
Mm.
she taught me how to still trust and love God, to know that he didn't make any mistakes as it relates to me. And if there's anything that he has to say to me, or if he has any issues with me, you hear that from him. Don't hear that from the people walking on earth.
Yeah.
So I had to include that. There's so many
Shouts out to
wonderful
Taj
people.
Mahal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shouts out to Taj Mahal, former Miss Dream Girl, even though Dream Girl has been canceled. Anyway,
My uncle said he tired. My uncle said
well, we
he's
didn't. Don't take it
tired.
out on us. We didn't do it. We was coming.
My uncle is tired. He's doing a lot of things. He's doing a lot of great things.
Right. Yeah.
He's in his last semester in seminary
Symmetry. Yeah,
school.
I remember that.
And so
And I.
he's really focusing on the next phase of his life. And he really wants to do some major things as it relates to that. And then of course we all know he's in public health, and
Mhm.
he wants to focus on his next.
I
Yeah.
And
get it.
sometimes you have, you know what, Trinity, sometimes you have to know you have to know when it's time to walk away
You're right. You're right.
and,
You're absolutely right.
and start working on the next phase of you.
Mhm.
And there's
Well,
no shame in that. When you've had a good time and you be like, you know what, it was a great ride, but adios, amigos. It's time for me to move on. And I think
well,
that's where he is.
well, we definitely love Antonio. He's a friend to the show, a guest last year, and so I felt guilty because I was one of the girls that was begging him to bring the prelim back because who
Hmm.
wouldn't want to be called Miss Dream Girl, and I didn't do it for whatever reason. But I was on my way this year. I was telling him I'm going to, but we understand. So hopefully, he'll still be on the
He'll
panel.
point you in the right direction
Yeah,
of
hopefully, yeah,
somebody.
yeah.
He'll point you, and he's a wealth of knowledge. He's always willing to talk to people, and he's
Mhm.
always willing to offer you the assistance and the
That you,
advice that you need.
yes.
He loves working with people that he loves and that he believes in, and that will still be available to the pageantry world. He's just not going to be involved in the capacity that he was before.
Gotcha. So we're gonna get these last three questions out
Sure.
that we ask everyone. The first one is, what would you want your legacy to be when you're gone?
That I was a loving spirit. I think more important than anything that I did on stage or anything that I won a crown for. I want to have touched people in a way that was authentic to me, and I made them feel good about having met me or having known me.
Gotcha. Well, I'm gonna add a bonus question because I remember
Sure.
you saying that you were a trained dancer, right?
Yeah.
Was Alvin Ailey ever a part of your wanting to go and be a part of that school? Did you ever think,
No, you know who really inspired me?
who?
Debbie Allen.
Oh, okay. I was
Baby, that honey, listen, I never missed an episode of Fame, and that's what sent me to dance school because I wanted to
okay.
be the next Leroy.
Okay. Okay, gotcha. I was just saying today they better not remake School Days. I know she had something to do with that. I was just saying they better not remake it. Next question. If you could, no explanation, just the word. If you could
Okay.
sum up your life, your full life in its totality, what word would you use?
Fruitful.
Fruitful. Okay. All right. So going back to today. So let's go back to you being in the sixth grade when your mom left.
Hmm.
Um, Anything in between that time and today? Any regrets? Anything you would change? Anything you would redo?
No, because I think it's because of everything that I went through, even as difficult as it was to live those experiences. I think that's why you get the person you have today.
Gotcha. Okay. So guys, we do the recap once we dismiss Dominique, but you have been on here for 2 hours and 15 minutes. Now, you didn't quite beat certain people, but you're in the three for the longest, and we knew that we was going to have a great conversation. I did not know it was going to be this great. I can literally sit and talk to you all night.
I appreciate it.
Your story is inspirational. It was encouraging. It has its moments where we were a little touched and have empathy and sympathy for you. So for you to accept this and then come on and have this great conversation, and as you can see, the comments were all for you. Thank you so much for that. King will give you the last question, and we just thank you again for taking this time out of these 2 hours of your life. We know that you have a lot going on, but giving us this moment to talk to you, we definitely appreciate it. It will stay up forever, and it is on YouTube, so you can always go back and have this memory with us. So King,
Thank you for having me. I'm so grateful.
Yeah.
Thank you again. And I'm gonna have to get some of those oxtails.
Yeah.
I don't know about all the other stuff.
I
But
want the peach cobbler. I believe that peach cobbler is good. So Dominique, I don't know where we're gonna be.
Yeah, because
Please
you
have
don't
me
want no
some peach.
meat.
Well, maybe
Your
I can
friend don't
come
want no
down
meat.
toward. I have to come to Houston for something. I do plan to come to Miss Texas.
Okay, well I'll be
So
there for having.
as long as
You'll be in
somebody
Miss
open up a
Texas.
kitchen, baby,
Okay.
listen, I will
You can
step
come right on over
inside
here.
Yes. Okay.
I'll
All
get to
right.
business.
All right.
So
Thank you.
we always ask our icons and legends to leave us and the people in the viewership with a nugget, something that we can take along our journey. It doesn't have to be pageant related, just be a life lesson, but one nugget that you will leave with us.
A life lesson. Yeah, I had, and you know, and I hope that it doesn't seem too broad of a statement, but as we continue to move forward as a people, and as we continue to move forward as a community, I want us to learn how to be, and this is biblical. I want us to learn how to be in this land, but not a part of the land.
Hmm.
Mm.
We need to make sure that we continue to set ourselves apart and embrace our uniqueness and not feel like we have to blend in order to be
Mm.
seen or appreciated.
Yes,
Oh
that was
wow.
great.
Well, thank you for that, and thank you for this 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Thank you. I
um,
appreciate y'all. I'm long-winded.
we no, trust me, we love the authentic
It
conversations,
was
and it
great.
doesn't seem like it's long because there's great conversation. Now we've had some people that were long and we're like, girl, but no, we definitely appreciate you, and again, this will stay up, and anything that you may need from us, whether it's advertising to any sponsorship to help you whenever you get ready to go to Black America,
Black
just let
America
us know.
Proud.
Just let us know, and we definitely will help you with that. I will see you at Miss Texas. Hopefully, I will
Yes.
see you with the peach cobbler. And again, we just can't thank you enough, Dominique, for giving us a part of your life tonight. And we wish you all the best, and you have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank
I love you
you.
both. I appreciate it. It was a great time.
Have a good night. We'll
Right.
talk to
Okay.
you later.
Bye.
All right. So
Amazing.
y'all ready for the recap? Oh, that was so good.
Amazing.
I really appreciated that. We often hear her on the point of view, and of course, they're talking about different topics. So to be able to
Hmm.
her story from a hear her story from a different perspective, and to get a little closer to her was definitely something that I enjoyed. What did you take from it?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was everything I thought it was going to be. She's a great communicator, but I think you just hit it. Like even with Chevelle and with Trent, we can say the same thing that when on their show they're talking about other people and other things, but when they come on here, it's their opportunity to talk about themselves. And I
Right.
think that that's the beauty of it because even in knowing someone, as long as you know them, you still learn something new when it is a moment for them to reintroduce themselves, as she said. So
Right.
I loved it.
Well, yes. So Dominique is in the vault, and we will see you all next week. We have this next guest. I don't know how this gonna go, but it's gonna be very interesting. So tune in next Tuesday with our next guest. All hearts and minds are clear. Everything is good. No one needs to get anything else off their chest. We're good. We moved on. We love y'all. Shouts out to everyone that is tuned in. We appreciate y'all so much for coming here every Tuesday and giving us an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours. I think one of our guests was 3 hours conversation. So we appreciate this. We will be going on break soon for about 4 weeks. But we will let you know when that is, and we'll revamp and we'll bring back some more people. A lot of people are now coming on and saying, okay, I'm ready. So we're trying to juggle that, but we do appreciate you all. Other than that, thank you, and we'll see y'all next Tuesday.
Okay.
Bye.